Hi everyone, we're going to get started in probably another 30 seconds. I'm just going to wait for everybody to get here. Okay, I think that it's about ready to get started. This is also being recorded, so if anybody's late, they'll still get a recording of this. So hi everybody, my name is Sophie and I'm part of the customer success team based in Toronto. Thank you for taking the time to join us for today's introductory webinar. During today's webinar, you will learn how Umapped is helping leading global brands and travel advisors engage with their customers throughout their entire travel journey. By using our collaborative experience platform, you can deliver interactive, branded, and consolidated mobile proposals and itineraries with relevant content and messaging for your clients. You'll also see how the platform maximizes productivity and streamlines your business workflow. During today's 35-minute webinar, we'll start with an overview of the client experience. So taking a look at how your clients will receive and view their trips online, via the mobile app, and as a PDF. Next, we'll demo Umapped's online trip building platform for travel professionals called the Trip Publisher. And we'll finish today's webinar with a review of the training resources and the support that's available to you, making sure to save some time for a live Q&A. Before we begin, I want to make sure that you have access to a complimentary trial. If you haven't already signed up for a trial, visit umapped.com/trial or go to our main page, umapped.com, and click on the sign up button in the top right corner of the page, and then complete the trial form. After submitting your request, our customer success team will send you a confirmation email with your account credentials and login instructions. So let's begin our live demo by reviewing the client experience. When ready, your client's trips are delivered by email and are available in 3 formats. Just a second. Okay. Clients can access their trips online, as a PDF, and via the Umapped mobile app. All formats of the trip are branded for you and include your company logo and contact details. This is an example of the email your clients will receive, giving them access to their trip. Your branding and contact details will be displayed at the bottom of the email. This email is all your client needs in order to access their trip. They can click on the View Your Trip button in order to access the web view of their trip, as well as the trip PDF, or click on the App Store and or Google Play Store icons in order to download the Umapped mobile app. So let's start by taking a look at the web view. This View Your Trip button opens a dynamic trip link that can be bookmarked and then accessed at any time. When your clients are accessing the web view for the first time, they will need to enter their email address in order to validate that they are a traveler on this trip. The first thing your clients will see in their day-by-day itinerary is your branding right at the top. Your branding and contact information is always displayed front and center. And there is also a download button for the trip PDFs, of which we have 2 different versions, a full PDF or a print-friendly option without any images. I'm going to download the PDF, and then I'm going to come back to this in a few moments. Your clients can view their day-by-day trip details and any important information that you have included in their trip just by scrolling down. The amount of details or information in the trip is always up to you based on your clients and the type of trip. All of the photos that have been displayed here have been added from one of the many image libraries available in the Trip Publisher. We have hotels and cruise photos preloaded for many properties and cruise lines, as well as a photo library that has been licensed for commercial reuse. Also note this chat icon, which displays on trip segments. This is the messenger feature. When enabled, it allows for real-time chat and notifications, which your clients can access on the web and mobile app trip views. When your clients chat with you using the messenger, you will receive an email notification, and you can even reply directly from your email. You can also access chat messages from within the trip publisher. Once you reply, your reply will display into the chat window, much like this one right here. And this on flight segments, so if I go up to a flight segment, is also where your clients will receive any day of flight notifications. So any gate changes, flight delays, or cancellations. You will notice this add icon, this little blue plus button, located at the bottom right corner of the page. This is the traveler collaboration feature that is available for both the web view as well as the mobile app. This allows your clients to build and personalize their trip details with information including dinner reservations, trip notes, and any other activities that they have booked on their own. While they cannot edit or delete any of the segments that you have added, it allows your clients to consolidate all information in one place with one consolidated view of their trip. At the top here, you'll notice a series of tabs. The Documents tab is where any supporting documentation for the trip is available. So this can include PDF attachments like vouchers and e-tickets, destination content, and any other important travel information that your clients may need to access. Beside that, the trip map will pinpoint all of the destinations that your clients are traveling to. And there is also a trip calendar where clients can view all of the trip details on a calendar view with the option to sync to their personal Google Calendar, iCal, or Outlook calendar. The web view is mobile responsive and will resize to fit to the device that your client is using, so whether they're on a phone, a tablet, or a desktop. So going to that trip PDF that I opened earlier, the PDF provides a printable option for your customers who still prefer paper. There are 4 different design templates that you can select from in your preferences in the trip publisher, but we'll get to that a little bit later. And now I'm just going to share my full screen so that I can show my mobile simulator. Perfect. So your clients, like I mentioned earlier, also have the option to download the Umapped mobile app from either the App Store or the Google Play Store so that they can view their trips on their smartphone while they're on the go or in destination. One of the great benefits of the mobile app is that trip details are available even when your client's phone is offline, meaning no Wi-Fi and no network connection. Just one second. Additionally, if I go into one of these hotel or flight segments, you can see that they can access directions as well as live weather reporting. Again, at the very top of the trip, you will notice that your branding and contact details are always displayed first and foremost. And now I'm going to go back to my original screen. Okay, so now that you can see what your clients will receive, I'm going to show you around the Trip Publisher, which is Umapped's trip building application for travel professionals. This is where you can build and edit your proposals and itineraries. To log in, go to pub-trip.umapped.com/login and bookmark this link for future visits. Once you're logged in, you'll be taken to your dashboard. On the top right is where your account details will be displayed. If you click on your user details, a drop-down will appear and display My Account, Submit Feedback, Send us an email. This is how you can get in touch with a member of our customer success team, and Log Out. For any new users, I suggest selecting My Account in order to update your user profile information, as these are the details which are displayed in the client experience. And this is also where you can come to change your password. Within the My Account option, you also have the option to not only update your user profile, but also come update your preferences. So all of these, which we'll talk about in a second, and your plan. If you click on Preferences, this is where you can update such account preferences as the Traveler Collaboration feature that I just mentioned, flight notifications, and more. And this is also where you can come to choose between those 4 different PDF layouts. On your dashboard, which you can return to by clicking on Back to Trips, you can view all of the trips that you have created within the default tab, My Trips. Your dashboard is also where you can search and access all of your past and present trips. Depending on your plan type, you may also be able to view all of the trips that have been created by your company by selecting Company Trips. Selecting the filters icon to the right of the search bar will allow you to filter your trips by the date, so whether it's an active, in progress, or a past trip, by the status, so whether it's pending or published, as well as the creation date of the trip. And then of course you can always search by a keyword as well. And then I'll just get rid of those. Clicking on the menu icon in the top left corner will reveal some other tabs such as the Library and Admins tab. From within the library, the Templates, Documents, and Vendors tabs are covered in some of our more advanced webinars and allow you to save profiles for various suppliers, as well as content for guides and other templated notes. I would also like to highlight the Support portal. By clicking on Support, you can gain access to our online knowledge portal, as well as send any questions to our customer success team. Let's go back here. So let's go back to our trips by clicking on Trips. And let's click the plus new button at the top right of the dashboard to start the trip building process. Enter a name for your trip, as well as the travel start and end dates. So I'll do October 13th. You also have the option to add trip tags, which is a great way to apply labels to your trips so that you can easily search for them on your dashboard later on. So for me, I'm just going to put down the 2 destinations that I'll be traveling to in this trip. And then click Create Trip to save this new trip. On the main page of your trip, you will see a large gray thumbnail image. Click on this image to add your cover photo. We always recommend adding a cover photo as this is the background image that displays in the traveler email, as well as the different formats of the client experience that we just reviewed. There are a few different options for adding a photo. The first is by searching the image library. This is a free library of licensed images that is available to all users. The second is searching the web, or you can always upload your own photo. For our sample today, I'm going to search the web by entering a keyword and then a website URL. So I'm just going to use unsplash.com because they have a lot of really nice free for commercial use photos. And then I'll select my photo and upload it. And you can always change it later on just by clicking on the banner again. Okay, so in today's demo, I'm going to highlight how you can easily consolidate bookings from a variety of integrated systems like Sabre and Clientbase, as well as how to import from partnered suppliers. We'll also demo how to create your own trip segments, and finally, how to share or send a trip to your travelers. So I'm going to begin on the left side of my screen and then gradually make my way over to the right. So I'm going to skip over travelers because we're going to talk about that towards the end when we talk about how to send it to a traveler. And I'm going to go straight to import bookings. Import bookings is where you can access the different system integrations available. So this is where you can import your GDS PNRs, client-based res cards, and access any booking confirmation emails that you have forwarded into the trip publisher. You can also import from Sabre Tripcase, Travelport, and WorldSpan by selecting the second tab, PNR Import. If you use Sabre, we have a direct integration allowing you to queue your PNRs to the trip publisher. Your PNRs can be retrieved from the booking inbox and added to any trip. So here's how it works. I'm going to add my sample PNR into the keyword box and then click Search. You can select the drop-down arrow to view details of the PNR, and then select the ellipses and click Add to Trip. This PNR contains flights and accommodations only, but anything that has been booked in Sabre will be imported, formatted, and then ordered chronologically. The best part of this integration with Sabre is that anytime that you make a change to the PNR in Sabre, all you have to do is re-queue it to the trip publisher, and your trip will automatically update. If you need to view or edit information within a specific segment, click on View Details. A right drawer will open, and you can now view all of the segment information. So in this flight segment, I can view all the passenger details, as well as all of the additional details that were in Sabre. And then when hovering over the top right for any of these different sections, I can click the pencil icon to further edit, or I can click the trash icon to delete. The client-based integration is a very similar workflow. Your res cards are also accessible via the booking inbox. Enter the res card number into the keyword field, click Search, and then follow the same steps as demonstrated when adding my Sabre PNR. For both the Sabre and client-based integrations, there is an initial setup that is required. So if you want to learn more about how to get this set up for your company, please contact our customer success team for further instructions following our webinar. If you use Apollo, Galileo, or WorldSpan, you can import your PNRs by entering the PNR, the lead passenger last name, and then choosing the GDS, and then clicking on Import. It is important to note that this is not a direct integration to your GDS, and PNRs imported via this method here, the second tab, will not automatically update when there are changes. So if you need to make a change, just come back here and re-import the PNR. If you need to go back to your main page at any point during the trip building process, select Trip on the left-hand side. So we're going to skip over Import Template because that's part of our more advanced webinars, and we're going to go straight to Suppliers. Suppliers is where you can import bookings or content from a list of partnered tour operators or DMCs. How each integration works varies slightly by the supplier, so we'll use Insight Vacations for today's example. Simply enter a destination or the name of the tour or itinerary and click on Search. All of the tours that match your search will be displayed, and from here you can view the tour details and then import it into your trip. I'm just going to close it. For some of our suppliers, like Classic Vacations, you'll be required to enter your username, password, and booking reference number in order to import their trip details. And then for a select number of our other suppliers, like Project Expedition, Ultimate Jet Vacations, DMC Explorer, there is also a small setup. So if you use any of these different suppliers, just send us an email to our customer success team email. That could be linked right here, and we'll start that integration process for you. Moving on to destination content, Umapped is partnered with AFAR and W Cities, giving you access to curated guides and recommendations for over 500 destinations around the world. For AFAR, You can either add a destination guide or specific recommendations. Select from the list of trip destinations or click on Search by City Name to manually enter the name. So if you have a leg in your journey coming up that you haven't added yet, you can just type that in manually, and then if everything looks good, all you need to do is select Add to Trip, choose a date. Personally, I prefer to add these larger destination guides towards the end of my trip so that they're not clogging up the main itinerary, and then just confirm that date. For W cities, as well as afar points of interest, since they have the very similar workflow, so I'm just going to demonstrate the one. Enter a city, as well as the source from the drop-down menu, and then click on Search. Select the checkbox to the right of whatever the content that you want to include is, and then click Add to Trip. And again, just choose a date and confirm that date. There are several different ways that you can attach library documents, PDFs, and Word documents to a trip. The first is by selecting Documents from the left-hand side. Select the second tab, File Attachments, and click Attach File. So I'm going to add a sample voucher that I have on my desktop, and then click Attach File. If you need to preview or remove your document, click on the ellipses for more options. And clicking on Edit just lets you edit the name of whatever the document was, so that I can maybe rename it Voucher for a specific traveler, update that, and this is going to reflect on the traveler side. That way I don't have to rename it on my computer if I have it under another series of numbers and letters like a lot of vouchers and e-tickets already are, and I can make it more legible. You can create, store, and manage your own content within your library, kind of like I mentioned at the top of this webinar. But since we're not talking about the actual process of that today, for our sample today, I'm just going to add a city guide for London that was previously created by clicking the first tab, Content from Library, and then clicking on Add Document. From here, I'm just going to look up London, and then I'm just going to select the checkbox next to the document that I wish to include and select Add Document. You can also add a supporting document right from within your trip page so that your clients can easily access it when viewing their trips in both the web view and the mobile app. So I'll select Trip to head back to the main page, and then click on View Details for whatever segment that you want to link the supporting PDF or Word document to. Select Attach File at the bottom of the right side drawer, and then upload a file. So this time I'm going to add this e-ticket, for example, and attach file. So once you've added your document, you can select the eye icon to preview or the trash icon to delete it entirely. So let's close that. Moving on, you can click on the calendar button for a calendar view of the trip. And then lastly, settings is where you can come to view and edit some of the trip details. Selecting the ellipses just next to the trip name and date will allow you to duplicate the trip, create a new template, or delete the trip altogether. And then just up here, the second tab, Audit Log, is where you can come to view a history of actions for a particular trip. All right, so let's head back to the main page. Now that we've looked at everything on the left-hand side, let's look a little bit into how to manually create your own trip segments. So on the bottom right corner of the trip, you can click the Add icon to create your own segments, add cruise content, and trip notes. We have thousands of vendor profiles within the trip publisher for accommodations and cruises that include photos, addresses, and contact information. So let's start by adding a hotel in Rome. Select accommodation and then search for your hotel. So I'm going to add the Rome Cavalieri, Waldorf Astoria, from October 7th until the 13th. So this particular hotel already has a vendor profile created that includes information about the hotel, as well as some photos of the property. Simply add your check-in and check-out dates and times, and then click Add to Trip. And then from there, all you need to do is add the pertinent traveler detail as in. To add a cruise, again, click the Add icon, and then select Cruise. Enter the ship name, the sailing month and year, and then click the Find Cruises button. So I'm going to search for the Norwegian Epic, October of 2020, find cruises. And then from here, just pick your cruise itinerary and the sailing date. So we'll choose this one, for example, so that it grays out, much like that. And then scroll down in order to click on Import. Finally, you can also add a trip note. So this feature allows you to add a customized note for your clients that can include detailed links, photos, and embedded videos. So for our sample trip, I'm going to add a bon voyage message for my clients. So select Note, and then add a title. So I'm just going to do Have a Fantastic Trip. The dates and times are optional fields, depending on the kind of note that you're adding. And then you just need to add your details. So I'm going to say, thank you for booking with us. You can always select Hide Note if you want to make the note internal for you or somebody that you're collaborating on the trip with, as these kinds of private notes are only visible within the trip publisher itself. And then I'm just going to add it to trip. Like I said, notes don't have dates, they don't have to have dates, so it's automatically going to go to the top of the trip, but you can always change that by just clicking on the calendar icon right over here. At any point during the trip building process, you have the option to publish a trip by clicking on Publish at the top right-hand side. Once a trip is published, it is live and all formats of the client experience will be available. So that means the web version, the mobile app, and the PDF. When publishing, you have the option to leave a little note that will display in the traveler email, or you can just go ahead and publish the trip. This trip is dynamic, so you always have the option to make any edits or changes later on. If there are any significant updates, always remember to republish the trip so that changes will be reflected on your client's view. To just kind of further clarify what the republish trip button means, if you just make some minor changes, such as maybe adding a few more details to a note, or adding some details maybe to the details section or one of the sections here for one of your segments, those are going to automatically update for your clients. If they're using the mobile app, they'll get a little notification that they need to refresh the trip when they have Wi-Fi or data. And if they re-access the web view, it'll update for them. But if you ever make any major changes, I suggest selecting republish because it kind of works like a hard refresh in your browser. So it'll make sure that they get that notification to absolutely change everything. Okay, so you'll notice that there's a few icons that are displayed next to the trip name and dates. I'm going to skip over the merge trip button because that's quite self-explanatory. It's simply how you can merge this trip into another trip. Although by doing so, you would have deleted this trip you're working in now, so I don't want to do that. Next to that, we have the share icon. And the share icon allows you to invite collaborators as well as add traveler emails. You can invite a collaborator or add travelers by selecting the share icon, or you can just simply add your travelers from this button in the left-hand side. So this has both of them, and this is just for travelers. And the only real reason that we have this is to make it a bit more visible. And you can also, if you're in another page, just go directly to your travelers. The collaborator function here allows you to share your trip with other travel professionals like suppliers, DMCs, vendors, and tour operators. But today we're just going to click on Travelers, and this will bring you to your traveler page. From here, click the Add Traveler button, and then add your client's details, so their email address, and then their first and their last name. Because I use this email quite frequently, the system actually remembered the first name and the last name that I typically use. So any traveler used once, it will store all that information. And then I'm going to add my traveler. Once you've added your traveler, your clients will receive a personalized branded email with all of the information they need in order to access their trip. So let's go back to the trip now. Next to the share icon, you have the preview icon, and this will allow you to access both versions of the PDF as well as the web view. And then finally, you can click on the pencil icon to edit your trip name, dates, and tags. All right, so we have reviewed various versions of the client experience from the web, PDF, and mobile versions, highlighting some benefits and features for the clients, as well as how to build a trip in the new Trip Publisher experience, reviewing popular integrations toward our trip building process like Sabre, Client Base, as well as destination and cruise content and vendor profiles. You should now be familiar with how to create a trip, but we also have some tools that will help you along the way. Our support portal, which you can access at pub-support.umapped.com, is where you can access a getting started guide, as well as step-by-step tutorials for all of the integrations and the features that we covered today. We also encourage you to go to our website, umapped.com, and click on the webinars button at the top of the screen here in order to book a one-on-one meeting with a member of our customer success team. So this is just a regular Zoom meeting where I get to personally speak to whoever signed up, so we can talk about their workflow, how I can point them to features in the Trip Publisher that would be best suited to them, etc. And where you can ask any of your questions. As well as if you need to ever come back to an introductory webinar, or if you want to look at some of the Beyond the Basics or other webinar series that we're hosting in the future. So you'll see here what we have planned for later in September, and then I'll update it probably towards the end of the month for October. If you have any topics for, any suggestions for future topics you'd like to see covered in one of our advanced webinars, you can always email us at support@umapped.com and just shoot out what your suggestions are. And to also be sharing a recording in today's webinar so that you can review this again on your own time. So with that, I'm just going to take a sip of water, and then if anyone has any questions, I'm going to wait a couple of minutes to see if anyone leaves anything in the Q&A or the chat. And if not, I'll demonstrate maybe like one thing that I know people do frequently ask, and then we'll end the webinar for today. So if you do have any questions, always leave it in the Q&A or the chat, whatever works best. While I wait to see if there are any questions, the one thing that people typically ask me is how to reorder segments within a trip. So there's a couple different ways, and I just want to go over all of the different ways, as well as the pros and the cons to all of them, just so you know how to make the itinerary the best possible, in terms of arrangement, the aesthetic, and in the flow. So the first and probably the easiest way to reorder a segment is to click on View Details, and then click on the little pencil icon, and then just simply choose a new start and a new end date for whatever the segment is. So if this is a flight or a hotel or an activity, in my opinion, it's always easiest, even though it's a little bit cumbersome to do this for every single segment, it's always the easiest to just come to this Edit Details screen in order to edit those major details. because it will prevent any user error. It's probably the safest route. Other than that, for note segments, like I mentioned earlier, note segments have this little calendar icon, just because notes don't typically have a date, so only notes are going to have this little calendar icon, but it'll let you choose a new date for this note. So I can put it at the end of my trip, and then you can see it came all the way down here to October 14th. I can even put it in the middle on the 7th. And now it's on the 7th, etc. If I go to the calendar, on this screen, you can actually drag and drop all of these bookings into a new order. So I can take the Afar City Guide and move it up. I can take this note, move it back to the 1st, and this will be reflected within the itinerary. This is probably the easiest way to move a lot of segments around at once. You can see I can move literally anything over, and it's not going to change the actual duration. It's just going to change, well, it's not going to change like if it's 6 days or 7 days, it's just going to move everything over by a day. The only reason I caution against using this all the time is that unless you're very comfortable with the trip publisher and you're pretty much a pro, you don't have any issues anymore, I find that this screen for newcomers can be a little bit, it can lead to some user error. So I would avoid this unless you're very comfortable with the trip publisher. And then lastly, one second. The last thing I'd like to talk about is how to reorder segments that are on the same day. Because before this, we've just been talking about how to reorder things to new days. But there are going to be times where maybe something's on the exact same day and you'd like to reorder it for a better flow. For example, I added this city blurb for Barcelona and this district guide for Barcelona to the 5th of October. But they, for some reason, are appearing before the flight from London to Barcelona. So maybe I only want my passengers to actually see these district guide, city blurb, these pieces of destination content. One second. Maybe I only want them to see this when they've actually landed in Barcelona. So in order to reorder things, I'm just going to drag and drop these into a new order. So I'm just going to take the city blurb and drag it below the flight. And then voila, the flight from London to Barcelona is going to occur before the city blurb and the district guide, just to kind of make my flow make a little more sense. Now, this is only going to work with segments that are on the same day. So if I try, for instance, to take the Rome Cavaliere, which only starts on the 7th, and move it above the W Barcelona, it's not going to let me because they're on different days. See, not going to let me. But for things that are on the same day, you can reorder them into whatever order you'd like. Okay, so I don't think that there's any questions because I don't see anything in the Q&A or the chat. So with that, I'm going to actually end the webinar. If any questions occur to anybody later on, I am sending out a follow-up email, so you can always reply to that email with any questions that might occur to you later on, and I'll be in touch with you as soon as I can. So again, thank you everybody for participating and for joining today. Oh, one second. There might be one question. Oh, Maya, thank you. Thanks, Maya. All right, so I will end the webinar now, and I'll reach out to you in a couple of hours. So thank you again for joining, and have a great rest of your day.